Have an avatar actually. There we go.
What?
There, that's what was missing.
Okay.
So here's the editing.
All I'm getting is.
There we go. Get back in there. Alrighty, and we're waiting for the stream to catch up.
Yeah, your avatar's up.
All right. All right. Yeah. There we go. All right. Now we're talking. And now I got to get this down. It's going to drive me nuts. So I think we got it now. Okay. And also with this, in case somebody wants to actually come on, I can actually throw them a link. So.
Oh.
What?
And LGG.
Yes, I see that. I'm looking at the chat right now. Yes. So, if you got any questions, now is your time. Let's see. Otherwise, I'm going to start throwing some reruns here. Let's see.
I don't think he's IT support, so.
Yeah. Okay, well.
If you need some help.
Well, there's less IT support and more just, content support. So, which is all on me. So. So let me go and dig up an old Roddenberry thing here.
If y'all hear any grunting and groaning in the back, that's me trying to.
Yeah.
Like.
Let's get past all this crap and. Yeah, we're digging it over here and. See. Oh. There's an oldie. I'll pause it for a minute while I work out the share screen stuff for once. Yeah, I got that. Okay. So let me answer the audio because that's the whole point of it. No, I don't want that. No. And we can get that over here. And let's just go through an oldie here.
Okay.
The letter was from Columbia Records. Dear Jane, is there a story behind Star Trek which hasn't been told? An intimate or very personal beginning? If so, we think it belongs on the Inside Star Trek record. All right, I can talk about things now that would have embarrassed me once. And maybe my story could be helpful to you if you're somehow different from other people, or handicapped. Most of us are in one way or another. I guess Star Trek had its first beginnings in the fact that as a child I was different, handicapped. I had difficulty breathing, eyes that didn't work well in bright sunlight, spindly-legged, weak, uncoordinated. I wasn't a very pretty thing. And I suffered the awful embarrassments that only a child can feel. I don't care. Every writer has to start like that. But if I had been the things that I dreamed of being, agile, athletic, admired and popular, I know now that I never would have ended up with as happy a life. I became a reader. Thank God I became a reader. I lived in a dream world because it was a hell of a lot better world. I was Dr. Dolittle. I was Zane Grey's lonely cowboy, an explorer. Lots of the trash. I was an Indian fighter, fearless soldier, a fighter ace. If you've read Peanuts, I was Snoopy. I fought the Red Baron many times. Certainly, part of Star Trek was written by that boy, dreaming maybe as you do of a better world in which people would look past our exteriors and see whatever loveliness we have inside us. I remember being about 8 years old in the backyard, sitting in a soap garden, pretending that it was a great vessel of some kind, and the bold, strong person hidden inside of me, he was the captain. I remember it was an enclosed vessel.
What?
Buffering. Come on, you can take this thing.
Might be because you're doing the.
Because I had a second soap curtain pulled down over my head. After sitting there for several hours, still encased in soap curtains, I heard the concerned voices of my parents speculating whether my illness had led to brain damage. Ah, how lovely all our daughters are inside. How fearless all our sons. If only we could see it. I remember helping my father clean the garage. Actually, he was cleaning. I was facing the firing squad. The bullets caught me, spun me to the ground, and as I lay there, bravely dying, I looked up to see Dad watching me with pity on his face, assuming I was suffering some new kind of seizure. Years later, something brought me back to reality. Science fiction. Yes, incredible. Science fiction taught me how to live in the real world. Thank you, Homer, my ex-convict friend. Thank you for John Carter of Mars. It made your cage more bearable. It helped rescue me from mine. And thank you, Claude, for that first copy of Astounding Stories magazine. Sorry you didn't reach 16 and grow out of your illness as I did. I was lucky, a miracle of adolescence. My body mended. I actually became stronger than average. But science fiction saved me from that too. Saved me from the perils of a strong body. I had learned by then that reality is incredibly larger, infinitely more exciting than the flesh and blood vehicle we travel in here. If you read science fiction, the more you read it, the more you realize that you and the universe are part of the same thing. Science still knows practically nothing about the real nature of matter, energy, dimension, or time, and even less about those remarkable things called life and thought. But whatever the meaning and purpose of this universe, you are a legitimate part of it. And since you are part of the all that is, part of its purpose, there is more to you than just this brief speck of existence. You are just a visitor here in this time and this place, a traveler through it. What a difference that makes. As a traveler here, it no longer crushes you that this world is not always fair or orderly or understandable. Your passport allows you to fix what you can, to love, to refuse to take part in ugliness. But meanwhile, you are delighted that this is such a varied, colorful, exciting place. As a traveler, you're not here to judge, but to experience. You begin to feel a new affection for the life forms here. You no longer feel threatened that some may be greater or lesser than you. It's only important that you've been given this marvelous opportunity to enjoy this trip, to learn from it, and in my case, write about it. Perhaps you know where I'm leading. On a trip like this, and it is a trip, its loveliness is not in the sameness of people and things, but in their incredible variety. Eventually, this led me to the Star Trek statement, IDIC, infinite diversity from infinite combinations. Thank whatever created us, we are different, each of us and everything around us. To the end of time, if it ever does end, no combination will ever come up quite the same. That's quite a travel package. All of this is how Star Trek began, and it's also something of what it's about. I am an alien.
Eric Pierpoint?
Yeah.
And so are you.
Yes.
And yet,
Mike's life.
and this is the loveliest thing of all, somehow we're also part of each other and part of everything that is. I don't know if this is a moral or not. Maybe it's don't sit inside soap gardens too long, unless you enjoy travel.
Okay, I think that's one that you might need to repackage a little bit. Well, I got that flyby, but I don't have the little closing bit there. Okay, and that's the next one I was going to go to here. Yeah.
All right.
This one, Roddenberry is a bit of a prophet. He can lay out what has gone wrong with Star Trek since he's been gone, especially the current one. We're not even his hand-picked successors in charge. So, first, we need to get past the game ad here. There. In fact, it's only 169 views. Is kind of criminal in my mind. So in a way, it's kind of, trying to bring some interest to the back catalog while I'm waiting for a topic to come up. Hey, Doomcock can do show tunes. I show my old episodes. Okay, come on.
Probably the most often asked question about the show is why the Star Trek phenomenon.
Is anybody still
And this
in the
is
chat?
incidentally not just a fan or a Trekkie question. It is now being asked by communications experts, by sociologists, educators, and others. There have already been a couple of master's theses written on this, and there are a couple of doctorates presently at work. And it could be an important question because you can ask, how can a simple space opera with blinking lights and zap guns and a hobgoblin with pointy ears reach out and touch the hearts and minds of literally millions of people and become a cult in some cases? Obviously, what this means is that television has incredible power. They're saying that if a Star Trek can do this, then perhaps another carefully calculated show could move people in other directions. What's to keep selfish interests from creating other cults for selfish purposes, industrial cartels, political parties, governments. Ultimate power in this world, as you know, has always been one simple thing: the control and manipulation of minds. Fortunately, any attempt, however, to manipulate people through any so-called Star Trek formula is doomed to failure. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. First of all, our show did not reach and affect all these people because it was deep and great literature. Star Trek was not Ibsen or Shakespeare. To get a primetime show, network show on the air and to keep it there, you must attract and hold a minimum of 18 million people every week. You have to do that in order to woo people away from Gomer Pyle, Bonanza, Beverly Hillbillies, and so on. And we tried to do this with entertainment, action, adventure, conflict, and so on. But once we got on the air, and within the limits of those action and adventure limits, we did not accept the myth that the television audience has an infantile mind. We had an idea, and we had a premise. Thank you, and we still believe that. As a matter of fact, we decided to risk the whole show on that premise. We believe that the often ridiculed mass audience is sick of this world's petty nationalism and all its old ways and old hatreds, and that people are not only willing but anxious to think beyond those petty beliefs that have for so long kept mankind divided. So you see that the formula, the magic ingredient that many people keep seeking and many of them keep missing is really not in Star Trek. It is in the audience. There is an intelligent life form out on the other side of that television tube. The whole show was an attempt to say that humanity will reach maturity and wisdom on the day that it begins not just to tolerate, but to take a special delight in differences in ideas and differences in life forms. We tried to say that the worst possible thing that can happen to all of us is for the future to somehow press us into a common mold where we begin to act and talk and look and think alike. If we cannot learn to actually enjoy those small differences, take a positive delight in those small differences between our own kind here on this planet, then we do not deserve to go out into space to meet the diversity that's almost certainly out there. And I think this is what people responded to. The result of that was 7 years after being dropped by the network of saying those things, there are now more people watching it than ever before. And if you ascribe those things to any mystic or scriptural brilliance in Star Trek, you miss the entire point. What Star Trek proves, as faulty as individual episodes could be, is that the much maligned common man and common woman has an enormous hunger for brotherhood. They are ready for the 23rd century now, and they are light years ahead of their petty governments and their visionless leaders.
And with that in mind, yeah, I don't think Roddenberry would be particularly fond of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump was very much a nationalist, as far America, take over America first.
Greg Strangis was actually asked to work up to TNG. Wow.
Well, they tried to get back as much of the old brand, the old band as they could. You brought back, Bob Justman out of retirement. So yeah, they were bringing back a lot of folks to try and get things going.
Unfortunately, one of the few people I think that could actually fix Star Trek at the moment is dead.
Yeah.
And that's Bennett.
Well, Dorothy Fontana make a role. David Gerald could probably make a run of it, but some of his ideas, I don't think so. This is why you couldn't get Blood and Fire made, David. Okay. Oh yeah, season 2, War of the Worlds. That show ended for me after season 1. Season 2 was a total garbage for us. The whole appeal of War of the World is this is the world outside your neighbor could be a Martian, But then they just changed producers, and suddenly it's Dystopia USA all over again. It's like, and killed off every good character they had right there in the first freaking episode. It's like that's it. Never watched another episode. Never watched any of it since then. Okay, so let's see where we're at here.
Oh, trivia fact.
What's that?
Rachel McAdams actually showed up in season 2.
Of Next Gen, I take it?
No, not Next Gen.
Oh, War of the Worlds?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Don't care. Adrian Paul was all over the thing, too. Let me get the share screen off here.
Oh, one of the guys from Hunt for Red October was also in season 2.
Oh, God. Again, don't care, Anybody who's in season 2, I hope the check cleared, because otherwise it's like that's all they got out of it. All right, hold on. God. No, I'm not getting the cough. I'm just a general dry mouth thing. Okay, so what else can we throw up here? Like I said, Doomcock can just do show tunes and public domain songs. I'm throwing up some of my greatest hits here. So.
Oh, God. Hey, you should throw up one of the ones from when you were still in Indigo Manor.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I liked them.
Looking like the wild man of Borneo.
Hardly.
Let's see.
Ew.
Let's see. Now you got to really go back to the old ones here. Let's see. Where's that? Where's that fan film one I did? Nothing else will kill about an hour. That's reviews. No, let's see. My trips to court to let's see that. There's that. Let's see. Looking at here. Dang it. Where is it? Now, if anything happens in the chat, I need you to tell me because I can't see the chat right now.
Okay, hold on.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Come on, dang it. I should organize these things better. Okay. And go to network sensor. That's always fun. Let's see. Oh, here. Nope, that's not it. The panel when Vic and James Connolly, before they had a little falling out. There we go. It's only 17 minutes. Hey. Could have sworn that was longer than that. Okay. So let's get that set up here.
The problem with tradition.
Get this stupid ad out of the way. I shouldn't say stupid ads. Those ads pay, what little money I get out of this whole situation. But so when you're watching, don't skip the ads, okay? Watch all the ads. Watch them all the way through. And thank them for their patronage. So, but we're going to do this again here. Whatever the phone message. Okay. All right. Get back there. Mute this for a second. A fan film is exactly what the name implies. A film made by fans of a particular subject. In the case of Star Trek, these amateur productions have been around almost as long as Star Trek itself, with the earliest publicly available example dating back to 1967. Titled simply Star Trek, it's about what you'd expect of the genre. Kids utilizing the family Super 8 camera, makeshift uniforms that consist of hand-drawn insignia taped on t-shirts, living room doubling as the bridge, etc. The first noteworthy attempt to kick things up a notch came in 1974 with John Constantino's Paragon's Paragon, essentially an adaptation of James Blish's Star Trek novel Spock Must Die. The film ran about an hour, shot on 16mm film, featured a full-size recreation of the bridge set, more or less, and presented an ambitious variety of special effects on a budget of around $2,000, roughly $10,000 in today's dollars. Something to keep in mind is that through much of the history of fan films, Paramount gladly turned a blind eye to such activities, not just fan films, but bootleg ship models, costumes, fanzines, so on. So long as they didn't make any appreciable amount of money off of their intellectual property, not enough where it was worth it for Paramount to unleash the lawyers and shut it down. The next major attempt at a semi-pro level fan film came in 1985 with Yorktown, A Time to Heal, with the key selling points being George Takei appearing as Sulu, and James Shigeta as Admiral Nagura, the admiral who gave Kirk back command of the Enterprise in Star Trek Motion Picture. This project even got a write-up in Starlog magazine at the time. Unfortunately, the production was abandoned before completion and lay dormant for nearly 20 years, when work was resumed in 2010. Presumably, work is either finished or nearing completion, which only leaves the question of when it's finally going to be released, an issue common with fan films in general, especially with the more ambitious productions, as we'll soon see. December of 2002 saw the debut of Starship Exeter, featuring the adventures of a decontaminated and recrewed USS Exeter, last seen in the infamous original series episode The Omega Glory, under the command of Captain John Quincy Garrovick, presumably related to Ensign Garrovick on the Enterprise and the late Captain Garrovick of the Farragut, both referenced in the original series episode Obsession. We need a fairly diverse and interesting group of characters, and the first fan film production to present us with accurate recreations of the original sets. Uniforms and hand props are one thing, but building full-size sets is a whole nother level of commitment. Even most productions nowadays tend to go for the cheaper option of green screens. The debut episode, The Savage Empire, showed great promise, claymation monster notwithstanding, and a fan base started forming. Unfortunately, the second episode, The Tressarian Intersection, ran into a common enemy of most fan films, real life. Released one act at a time, the delay between the release of Acts 3 and 4 spanned more than a few years. In all, from principal photography to the release of the final act, it took nearly 10 years for the second episode to finally see the light of day. Needless to say, the third episode, The Atlantis Invaders, never happened. By the way, that bridge set now lives in Arkansas with a crew of Starship Ajax, another aspiring fan film group. The series took the approach many fan films take in depicting other ships and officers in the Star Trek universe away from the Enterprise, allowing the writers and actors to follow their own paths and not run afoul of the established canon. After all, it'd take some serious balls to actually take on the roles of Kirk, Spock, and the rest, right? Well, in 2004, James Cawley decided to grab onto the third rail of fan films and produce Star Trek New Voyages, with Cawley himself taking on the role of Captain Kirk. A former underling of Star Trek costume designer William Ware Tice, Cawley has made his money primarily as one of the world's most acclaimed Elvis impersonators, hence the jet black king of rock and roll pompadour. I like to think of this as an alternate timeline where Hawaii Five-0 didn't take off, Jack Lord had a slight change of heart regarding Star Trek, Shatner left after the third season, and Kirk is recast Darren Stevens style, with Jack Lord done in the velour tunic for considerably less than the 50% ownership that he wanted the first time around. Just like any such production, first offerings are a little rough, with slightly dodgy camera work and frankly amateurish lighting. Thankfully, these issues were quickly resolved with subsequent episodes, although the second episode, In Harm's Way, became a touchdown for how not to depict the Enterprise. Whenever you hear somebody talking about the Enterprise zipping around like a colonial viper, this is what they're talking about. In 2008, the production changed its name to Star Trek Phase 2, a clear nod to the planned Star Trek revival TV series that was shelved in favor of Star Trek The Motion Picture, itself an adaptation of what would have been the pilot for Phase 2. This wasn't just clever rebranding. The intent was to produce some of those unproduced Phase 2 scripts. This only got as far as The Child, which had already been adapted by the Next Generation to get around the writer's strike at the time, and Katoomba, a John Meredith Lucas story about the Klingons that required some serious reworking to bring it back in line with the Klingon society as we knew it as of the time of Enterprise. It was while developing a Norman Spinrad script, He Walked Among Us, a script initially pitched to the original series, that the friendly folks at CBS chimed in to remind Cawley that they still owned those scripts and really would rather prefer nobody else produce them. This is around the time of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, and CBS had developed a serious case of territoriality, putting the kibosh on that idea. This also marked the end to Cawley's turn as Captain Kirk, as he pulled back a bit to focus on producing the show, bringing in actor Brian Gross to take over the role of Kirk for the last of the production's 10 episodes. Although Starship Exeter initially kicked off the current state of fan films with faithful recreations of sets and higher quality visual effects, most folks do look to New Voyages as when Star Trek fan films kicked into high gear, partially because Cawley did grab that third rail by taking on the role of Kirk, garnering a lot of attention, both pro and con, and the fact that this production had the active participation of actual Star Trek veterans, both in front of and behind the camera. Most notably George Takei, Grace Lee Whitney, and Walter Koenig reprising those roles of Sulu, Rand, and Chekhov, but also scripts from Dorothy Fontana, Mark Zicree, and David Gerrold, who finally got to produce a version of his next-gen rejected AIDS allegory script, Blood and Fire. Gerrold would later take on showrunner duties on Phase 2 until they shut down in 2016. More on that later. It was during this period that more fan groups were inspired to build their own sets or arranged to borrow sets from other groups, and Star Trek fan films entered something of a golden age. Which brings us to the culmination of this cultural and creative process, Star Trek Continues. Produced by anime voice actor Vic Mignogna,
with a cast of primarily experienced professional actors, as opposed to the usual group of enthusiastic amateurs, and their own batch of faithful recreations of the original sets, starting with the bridge and other set pieces acquired from Starship Farragut, another fan film production that, through bad luck, lost the loan of the warehouse that served as their soundstage, eventually including main engineering. The only other production to have an engineering set was Phase 2, and they never got to really use those on camera. Star Trek Continues set itself the goal of completing the 5-year mission and setting up the characters for where we find them in Star Trek the Motion Picture. And over the course of 11 full-length episodes, they accomplished that goal. What set Continues apart from other productions are a few factors. Every episode is made with a concerted effort to match up as closely as possible to the look and feel of the original series, from the signature colored lighting, the camera angles, and in this age of high-def widescreen, shooting in the original 4:3 screen ratio. The scripts were all consistent with those of the original series, including the subtle approach to current social issues, building upon established canon, and giving Mignogna that chance to chew up the scenery with true Shatnerian gusto. The vast majority of the cast of any episode are professional actors, with several guest stars well known to genre fans throughout the run, including Aaron Gray, John Delancey, Lou Ferrigno, and Colin Baker. Then on June 11, 2014, the fan film community started to turn upside down. Famous fan Alec Peters, previously known for dealing in rare Star Trek collectibles through his company PropWorks, released a 20-minute documentary-style short, Prelude to Axanar. The intention was to set up the eventual production of a feature-length professional Star Trek story, Star Trek Axanar, which would tell the story of Garth of Izar and his role in the 4 Years' War, an incident prior to the original series, largely rooted more in fan speculation than hard canon, wherein the Klingon Empire and the Federation go to war, and we'd learn how and why Garth became the legendary starship captain that became a boyhood hero to James Kirk. Everyone in the cast, with the exception of Peters, was a well-known Star Trek or genre veteran. Peters, of course, cast himself as Garth. The visual effects were nothing short of spectacular, and the list of premiums for different levels of contributions was staggering. Donations reached over $2 million, and plans were announced to use the production of Axanar as the basis for an independent, for-profit studio where fans would be able to come in, produce their own projects in a professional-level facility. In the eyes of CBS, the current owners of Star Trek, that line where fan creators were not allowed to make any money from any of their projects was about to be crossed, and the lawyers were dispatched from on high, and the entire fan film community was about to pay the price for Axanar's ambitions. So it was on December 29th, 2015, CBS and Paramount Pictures filed a copyright lawsuit seeking damages in the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California, stating Axanar Works infringed their rights by making use of the Klingon language and innumerable copyrighted elements of Star Trek, including its settings, characters, species, and themes. The sword of Damocles that had hung over fan projects for decades had fallen, and Alec Peters, who likes to describe himself as a lawyer, even though he's never actually practiced law anywhere, seemed to revel in the attention and the conflict, while the entire fan film community very nearly ceased to exist in the carnage. In the middle of all this, mainly as a response to one of Peters' defenses that there weren't any guidelines to follow, so he couldn't be found guilty of violating rules that hadn't been laid down in the first place, on June 23, 2016, Paramount and CBS released guidelines for fan films to head off any future mishaps and misunderstandings. The days of the property owners turning a blind eye to fan activities had come to an end. Groups that had projects already in active production were allowed to finish up as planned, allowing, for example, Star Trek Continues to complete their final batch of episodes. Phase 2, on the other hand, decided to just shut down production entirely, turning their soundstage into an officially licensed tourist attraction. Star Trek Horizon had just released a feature-length film set during the period of Star Trek Enterprise, and were planning a sequel when they received a friendly advisor from CBS not to do that. So they just abandoned the project entirely. Everyone else pretty much sat back and started rethinking their projects. The outcome came on January 20th, 2017, when all parties agreed to a settlement wherein Alec Peters and Axanar Productions promised to make substantial changes to Axanar and agreeing to abide by the newly minted guidelines for fan films, meaning that instead of the planned 90-minute feature, Axanar could be no longer than 30 minutes in 2 15-minute segments, with no ads. As of the time of this video, Axanar has yet to begin production. And now let's take a look at those guidelines. These are not so much hard and fast rules as in these are the boundaries wherein you will not be sued. stray outside the boundaries. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get sued, but it means you're taking your chances. So say bye-bye to continuing series. I think this might be a gentle swipe at Star Trek Continues, because there was something, they did use the word official feelings, but I think it's more like they were referring to this is the official site for the production, not that they're official in CBS's eyes, but just to head it off. Or anyone claims that, yes, this is canon. No, it's not. I think this is referring to any ideas about doing a mashup. Say, let's say they have a popular Star Trek Doctor Who crossover. And also, and you can't use stock footage. Recreating scenes is pretty much out, which would also mix, a vignette and an opening scene for a couple of Star Trek Continuous episodes. But pretty much, it's got to be original and it's got to be legal. So. All right, this has been misinterpreted a few times, saying, that you can't make you can make your own uniforms. The thing is commercially available. So basically, yeah, you want to start your uniform, you're better buy the Novos ones or some other, or maybe a Rubies even, but something officially licensed. If it's not available, then yeah, you can make your own. Like if you want a phaser, you're better off using the Artist Island ones or the Diamond Select ones. But phaser rifles are kind of hard to come by, so yeah, you can make your own in that case. But they also don't want to be feeding the pirate market because, but yeah, try proving that one. Basically, no more original series actors or I'm not sure this is entirely legal though, because I don't think they really have the authority to tell actors on their spare time what they can and cannot do. So if Gary Graham wants to show up as Soval in an episode, hey, what are you going to do? So I would change that if I had anything to say about it. Basically, yeah, you can spend more, but it's coming out of your own pocket. You can't do a Kickstarter and get more than 50,000. Although, frankly, a lot of productions are done for a lot less than 50,000, so that's pretty generous. Limited, think about it. In other words, on YouTube or BitChute or something, and no monetizing it. So. But yeah, you can't sell DVDs. No ads, no posting ads somewhere, no little bit. Basically, this is a direction I put what Axon was doing with models of the Ares, Axonar coffee, and other things like that. So no, you can't. For a $5 donation, you can have the uniform of Captain What's-His-Face. Basically, that territory is reserved for Star Trek Discovery because all of it's there in that first season. That seems fair enough. Yeah, any ideas you have about doing a copper on this? No. Those days are long gone, and they were kind of dodgy back then, frankly. Basically, proceed at your own risk. And don't be surprised if one day they decide to pull the plug on it and everything gets coming to action. Remember, this is also production of the Moonbeds era, so yeah, they got that little putting another sword up ready to follow somebody across the line. So that's the general status right now and a few of my thoughts. So comments down below, and also links down below if you want to support the channel, PayPal, Patreon, etc., etc. And we'll talk at you later.
Okay, back in. Yeah, Stephanie's rediscovering the virtues of Irish coffee, I think. We'll share Redstone release. The rules, like I said, some of the rules are kind of almost self-explanatory. It's like, yeah, no crap. Put a little thing based on Star Trek, and I think don't put Star Trek in the title. Maybe a little bit over the top, but some of them, as I said, some of them I don't think are really enforceable. Some of the thing about no Star Trek veterans, I don't think it's even legal. They can't tell what someone can and cannot do in their spare time. I said George Takei wants to play Sulu again. Hey,
And, Vic had plenty of Star Trek fans on Star Trek Continues.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it's because the Star Trek Continues. It was wall to wall. Just about everyone there was a experienced actor who was also a big fan, and also people that Vic had made friends with on the con circuit. That's where he got John Delancey, he got Colin Baker, Nicola Bryant, and Gigi Edgley. In that one clip I showed from Coming Out Between the Dragons. So yeah, there was genre people all through those things, and also behind the scenes, Doug Drexler did most of the special effects, the visual effects rather, and then Gabe Kerner did the ones on the first couple of vignettes. Yeah, Chris was definitely up to the task on that one. But I think also, Chris doing Scotty.
Oh yes.
Well, also the advantage of having Chris doing that is you do more than just the accent. He would also be able to catch in little mannerisms that that Jimmy had that other guys might not even know about. And just the attitude was there, because I'm not so sure, like Pilgrim of Eternity. I don't think if anybody else really could have done Scotty very well in that, because it would have been in the whole thing about, remember, Scotty didn't like Apollo. And he just thinks like security to the bridge now. Let's see. What else can I drag up out of the closet? Let's see here. I don't know. Should I do the Asimov one?
Why not?
Yeah, do the I think that's why I hadn't really done anything with it. I just reposted it with a new thumbnail.
The great enemy of writing isn't
And of course, we got the masterclass ads. We're gonna get that out of the way. Hold it, you. What are you turning? Wait your damn turn. Hold on, get back there. Okay. Oh yeah, he definitely back in the and that's something that's really kind of missing, frankly, when the movies. One since he was only doing Scotty like every couple of years, he didn't have the same kind of vocal pattern as he did in the series. It was pretty much straight, it was what Fraser Hines called it, TV Scotsman accent. Even Billy Connolly said it's good enough. It was not bad. It's not like Craig Ferguson's reaction. He's speaking Pakistani. It was a decent TV Scottish accent. It's inspired by some guy from Aberdeen because he was an instructor in World War II to his unit, and he couldn't understand a word he was said for the first week or so. An actual Aberdonian accent is very sing-songy. And to a non-Scotsman, he probably didn't understand a word he said. And actually, it's kind of a game that Scots play where they will just get it on thick and furious. It's like deliberately making it unintelligible to anybody else, But eventually, he's starting to figure it out, and then he had an ear for accents anyway. So when it came time to doing the accents, the whole story goes, he did it. They wanted him as an engineer. They didn't, but they didn't know what kind of character he had. And apparently, Shatner's the one who kind of, hey, get this guy. I worked him on the radio. But he started doing accents. Did an Englishman, did a German one, did a kind of a Cornish, piratey type thing, the proper Brits, Then, and he did Scotsman. Well, what do you think? Well, if he's going to be an engineer, he better be a Scotsman. And that's how that started. But he had a very level delivery for the most part. He had the brogue, but it wasn't. The captain, but it wasn't all over the place. The movies started going all over the place because he started it was only every couple of years. So it kind of started going back to that Aberdonian, roots there for how he started it. So let's get back on here. And it's still sharing. Okay. No wonder it's still running. Okay. So let's get back to this here. This again, part of the thing. How back in the day, if they someone, if Alex Kurtzman and J.J. Abrams, play this for them because they clearly don't have a freaking clue what they are doing with science fiction in general and Star Trek in particular. So, that's it. But as a matter of fact, with Amy Rydell playing Romulan Commander in the last couple episodes, they did where she got full wardrobe and makeup and everything, and sent a picture to her brother, and her brother came back. Why are you sending me pictures of mom? They were that good, and it didn't take much. You just looked at the screen. Oh my, yeah, that was her daughter. And it's kind of I think it sort of went around about that they wanted to bring back this character, and someone pointed out, hey, Joanne Livell's got a daughter and she's in the business, so. And so they reached out to her and Golden, she would love to it, And I forget what kind. I think there was a favorable reaction from mom, but let's get it from the masters here, and especially like the little anecdote of how Roddenberry and Asimov met. So.
In 1965, I took the first Star Trek pilot to TriCon at Cleveland, a science fiction convention. And when they began to show my pilot, I noticed a gentleman standing nearby. I heard a gentleman standing nearby, surrounded by people beginning to talk as my show came on. And nervously, I hurried over to him and said, for Christ's sakes, be quiet. They've got my pilot on. Someone then walked up to me and said, congratulations, you've just insulted Isaac Asimov. I don't know if you remember that incident, Ike.
No, I don't, but it rings true because I'm always talking.
Well, the point of it I remember is after the show was over, the man that I had always wanted to meet, my idol in science fiction, Isaac Asimov, came over and apologized and said, you're quite right, I shouldn't have been talking, and then said some nice things about the pilot, and it was the start of a long friendship. Here's probably one of the oldest questions that, to you. What is science fiction?
Well, I don't know that I'm particularly an expert on this, despite the fact I've written a great many books. But I've always said that science fiction is that branch of literature which deals with the response of human beings to changes in science and technology. Now, that's a rough and ready description of science fiction, but a lot of people ask me, how do I differentiate science fiction from fantasy? That's the second most favorite question among science fiction people. And to my way of thinking, that although science fiction and fantasy both deal with a background which is completely different from the normal background that exists today, in fantasy there is no way in which we can travel from our background to the fantastic background, which may involve magic, elves, fairies, and so on. But we can at least conceivably travel from our background to the science fictional background by appropriate changes in the level of science and technology.
You've written some 110 books, perhaps more. Is the Foundation the one you'd like to be remembered for, or is it another one?
I think the Foundation trilogy is, whether I like it or not, the one I'm going to be most nearly remembered for. That is, if I'm remembered at all. My own favorite science fiction book is The Gods Themselves. In my nonfiction, I presume Asimov's Guide to Science is the most nearly famous book I've written, although the trouble with that is it goes out of date unless I continually keep updating it.
It's the one that I've used most, and in the making of Star Trek, it sat on my desk most of the time. I think you've seen more new writers happen, new science fiction writers, than most have. How about a quick course for would-be science fiction writers? What are the most common mistakes you think are made in the field?
Well, from my standpoint, the most common mistake a science fiction writer makes is to downgrade science. Now, these days particularly, many science fiction writers have very little to do with science, and many science fiction stories have very little to do with science. But whether a science fiction story has science or not, it is impossible to write a good one if you are completely ignorant of science. You will make mistakes even when you think science isn't involved. I think that it is important to at least know something about science, whether you're going to put science in or not. It shows. As a matter of fact, that's what makes the difference between Star Trek and all the other science fiction series that I have seen. Star Trek was the only one when whoever it was who was involved, Gene, and I mentioned no names, insisted on people knowing something about science and preparing and it showed, you know. You could see that even when you broke the laws of science, you were doing it intelligently and plausibly. There are other science fiction shows, no names please, in which it is quite clear that the writers and the producer know nothing about science and don't care, and that shows too, and it is impossible to be a self-respecting viewer and accept it.
Well, you're not saying to the young writer that he must be anything near a scientist. He just has to have respect for it and be willing to research it when it's used in, that particular point is used in a story.
Absolutely.
How about the same question regarding science fiction movies as opposed to novels? What is your principal criticism concerning them? The same thing?
Well, I tell you, science fiction movies have a special difficulty that the books do not have. They have to deal with a much larger audience. If a book sells 5,000 copies, it's viable. A movie has to sell 40 million, so to speak, which means that they cannot play for the minority the way a book can. In a book, you can be pretty highbrow and figure, well, there are 5,000 people who will like this. A movie has to hit, in some respects, the lowest common denominator.
There should be quite a few people playing this record who appreciate this question. Like, your literary output ranks at the top in both volume and quality. Typically, when your name came up with Ray Bradbury the other day, he simply described you in 3 words: that incredible man. What is your advice to the would-be writer, beyond the usual advice, write?
Well, it seems to me that the writer must use all things human and all things human-made and all things that impinge upon the human being as his raw material, which you can say briefly, he uses the universe as his raw material. So the writer must go through life with his eyes and ears open. He must allow everything to flood in and ignore nothing.
What you're saying is really that the beginnings of being a good science fiction writer is first to be interested in the reality around you.
I think so, yes.
Okay. Okay. Nightfall. Are you talking to Asimov story? Okay. Okay. Let's get this. Stop that. Okay. Well, Simon Pegg. Carl Urban was a big fan, so he was able to bring in a lot of McCoy stuff that otherwise wouldn't have been brought in. And Simon Pegg is also a fan, but he's really he's a bigger Star Wars guy, I think. He's good. He likes Star Trek. He's a fan of Star Trek, but and the cast of J-Trek wasn't the problem. It was just the total idiocy, put on screen in the script. But let's see. What's up is I'm running a little run on my greatest hits. So, with occasional discussions on the side about, and also me grabbing a sandwich in between there, and I got a beer ready to open in a minute. And I keep forgetting to stay on my channel. And so we've been at it so far for about an hour. Well, actually, one of the things of why George Lucas's lawsuit against Battlestar Galactica kind of didn't go anywhere, because he said, they stole it from Star Wars, but George, you stole from everybody else. So kind of, didn't go very far when he started trying to accuse Glenn Larson of stealing. Well, there's a reason why they call him Glenn Larceny. He stole from everybody on a constant basis, long before Galactica came along. Let's see, where's the last thing I need to get back to doing more of those, type of stuff. Let's see. What was that all about? Oh, that would kill an hour, but the interview that Roddenberry did back in mid-'80s, I think, maybe it actually been a little bit before. Let me check this here. Okay. Let me check this original video here. Nope. And I think it was in the early '80s, because but I don't think he had actually started Next Gen just yet, or was just getting to. I don't know. Either way, it was an interview he did at home with some college professor was doing a class. I don't think I'm going to play that though, because it's over an hour. But, it's one where I basically did an edited version of it. It's just raw footage, and there was some, back in, some reverse shots. They're supposed to be, so you can see her nodding, while he's answering a question. So it's about, my version comes out about 20 minutes, or 10 minutes, shorter, because I made it all together. But let's see. Oh, here's a good one. This was from September of 1976. The North Glen Mall, which unfortunately is no longer there, was celebrating its anniversary, and at the same time doing a little Star Trek, because it was around Star Trek's 10th anniversary. And I got my dad to take me out there while they're doing this over this weekend. And it's starting without me here. Stop it! And let's see. And so let's go. I'm going to leave the mic open for this so I can chime in occasionally, but let's go ahead and do this here. No, don't do that. Okay. Let's go with this here. And let's turn this down a little bit there, so. Because the sound itself and the thing is kind of immaterial, but.
I've been wanting to do this for a while now. I just haven't seen there. Way back, it was would have been fall of now that came closer, September of 1976. Of course, was Star Trek's 10th anniversary. And North Glen Mall, it's like 8th anniversary, they decided to hold a bit of a Star Trek convention in the mall. And they got Nimoy to show up and Jimmy Dillon. And they had, one of the big things they had in the press release was they had a 10-foot paper mache model of the Enterprise. The one I saw, it was okay. Like it was a 10-foot model of the Enterprise, but it was also a paper mache model of the Enterprise. So took it after there. But somebody managed to actually do some little Super 8 footage of it. A guy by the name of Sam Clemke, he's got a channel called Multimessence. Video. It does a lot of old Super 8 footage.
I got a link on the original video, or this original video. Right.
This one was kind of described in 1976. He got probably a friend of his, and did sort of a mock news report covering the event. So we're going to take a look at this here and do a little commentary here.
No, I have no idea if I was there that day, but. Yeah, there's that 10-foot model of the Enterprise.
Yep, that would be that 10-foot model of the Enterprise. I don't know if it's ceiling. Actually, better not remember it. And tables all along in the entire the mall.
Around us now is a couple of Star Trek paraphernalia. Let's look at it.
The old Mego figures in place. Not a model contest. Somebody had built a phaser. Yeah. Magic marker on film. I'm sure I saw her at some point. Somewhere in there. I've looked. I don't see myself anywhere in there. So I've been waiting for a couple of days. I don't remember seeing him anymore. I don't even remember he was there. Maybe I didn't see him. So. But nope, he was there.
Please supposed to represent.
Kate, I'm
You know, the little creepy farms that are behind us there.
To a Romulan or a Vulcan?
Yeah.
We're in the.
What happened? I think it's just like typical Clues reporter. Doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Really, I don't know, just here and there and everywhere, you know.
And there's Jimmy.
Thank you.
Yeah, and a goatee. I don't know. This was shortly before they started production on the motion picture, so yeah, he had a beard at that point. And there was some debate whether he was going to keep it or not, you know. And then a little costume contest. This was done at the other end of the mall, where they, I think it was by Sears. Because it's Sears on one end, Penny's on the other. And then a bunch of stores in between.
All right.
And it's
Who do you think you are?
Woolworths.
I am Captain James T. Kirk of the United Starship Enterprise.
Do you know who I am?
No, I
And of course, someone's got to be a goofy sketch.
You are McCoy.
Right.
Oh, and then
Since I was born,
moves around, you know, rather than
I do not
episodes.
believe you. Where is your uniform?
I'm on a special mission.
Well, the mid-70s, it's, you know, Super 8, so what do you want? But yeah, that was my first experience, a convention type situation. So, yeah, another case of, yep, I've been in this situation for a very long time, so I got a perspective on that. That's where I got my first, you know, list of all the episodes. So they had people, and I've retyped it many times. I don't know what happened to the original list. It's gone.
You don't even know why
I've retyped it several times, so I
Percy
can't
Alley
forget
was
it.
replaced on, you know,
And yeah, that's it.
in the
Because they came back to Kirsty with a very low offer, lower than she was paid the first time.
Lots and lots of stuff for sale. And, you know, got my dad taking it because we had moved from North Glen down to the Wheat Ridge area in '76. I don't know what time in '76, whether we were about to move or had just moved. So, but it wasn't that much deal. Either if we had stepped to the mall, I think we were about to. I don't know if it was. No, we would have moved because it was after the school year we moved. So during the summer we moved down there, so we would have had to come back at the mall. But again, it's just from White Ridge Movers. But yeah, and as much crap as my dad gave me over the years for Star Trek, he also did a lot to support it too, whether he meant to or not. So, that was a strange situation there, but there you go, a little, kind of a piece of my history. And trying to keep this going here. I've been, all I'm seeing for now is becoming a professional Trekkie, so PayPal, Patreon down below, and we will talk at you later.
Okay, then we get that one. Yep. Yeah, a big part of. Did any of that get out?
Huh?
Did I not get the video to go out, or was that just audio?
I don't know.
Ooh, excuse me. Okay, the way Kirstie Alley puts it, they came back with an offer that was very low, lower than what she was paid the first time. So, I'll turn that down. Yeah, and considering that she was paid, yeah, I see that. You know, and what was the sticker? Piece of cake. That's good. I like cake. Okay. Okay, Mecca's going live in about half an hour, so we've been at it for over an hour, so I think we'll wrap it up pretty soon here. But yeah, they probably lowballed Kirstie on her, and again, consider she was doing a hell of a lot more if she would be doing in 3 than she did in 2, and also her career started to take off. She had offered TV parts. I think it was TV show Masquerade was going. It was kind of a Mission Impossible type of thing. You know, they looked good, you know, but it didn't go anywhere. But who knows? So she felt she was fine. No, I'm not going to take your pennies for something else. I got other things going on now. Screw you. So yeah. So I think we will wrap that up here. But unless I can find something else to do next half hour. Well, again, they would have had, they tried pushing that with 3, because they did film the exchange between Kirk and Spock at the Academy, where they mentioned that she was half Romulan.
Okay.
And Kirstie would have remembered that was part of the thing. So, hey, wait a minute, what happened to the half Romulan thing? What?
Well, since you're playing your greatest hits,
What?
how about your brush with America's Funniest Home Videos?
I don't know.
Why not? It was funny.
I know, but I don't feel like watching videos of Jones. Okay, so.
Oh.
But with our luck, the America's Home Video people come in and say, hey, that's copyrighted to us. Yeah. The problem with saying them stuff. So let's see what we got here. I really don't have a lot of produced stuff that I need to do. I need to do more of that.
One of your comic book ones.
Well, where's my... Get that up here. I need to try another download of Forbidden Planet, because the copy I had was lost in the crash on the flash drive that was never recovered. Along with that flash, I had someone had put up on YouTube the entire the big monster box set of the original Star Trek, the original series soundtracks, every note, even the stuff that got cut. And unfortunately, that flash drive was not recovered. So what do we got here? And suddenly I'm not getting, I can't scroll down any further. I know I got more videos than that. Clear that. Oh, come on. The furthest go back is 10 months. Something is wrong here. Okay, now I got a spinny thing. It's not letting me see any videos past 10 months ago, which is bull. I just played a few videos more than that, longer than that. So I think something's fritzing out a bit here. And I seem to have also picked up some subs. Let's see. What are we at here? Saying 1.27 thousand. Yes, we have crossed the 1,271 subscribers. Past 40, had 44 in the past 28 days. So I think that earns a swig of beer here. Okay. For the record, George Killian's Irish Red. Well, I think it is best they did recast it, because I think if they had gone, because originally it was going to be Savick as in that part as the one to Turnsko, but I think it was a case of, and Roddenberry did call him out on this during his notes. And while they were fully prepared to ignore him like they did everything else, but I think the fact that they couldn't get Kirstie Alley back because she was tied up with Cheers, they didn't even bother asking Robin Curtis. And I like to think that Roddenberry at least planted the seed that just created another character, because I think if they had gone with that, there would have been a fan backlash, because Savick was still a pretty beloved character at that point, and having her turn traitor would not have gone over well. And even if Roddenberry really had no love lost for Star Trek II, he knew the fans, and they would not have taken well to having Savick turn traitor. Yeah, a little something, because apparently Kim Cattrall is actually a big Star Trek fan. And kind of to show her appreciation about it, she had some let's say some pictures taken on the bridge when everyone else was around, just her and the photographer in full Savick makeup, and only in basically, no uniform. Her sprawled around the captain's chair, naked as a jaybird, but with the Valeris wig and the ears and stuff. So Roddenberry did not take this well. Not Roddenberry. Nimoy did not take it well. He not only did not appreciate the naked pictures, he had the negatives destroyed. So unfortunately, they're any chance, unless Kim kept some copies. That is one thing we'll probably never see, sadly. Especially back, we're talking, Kim Cattrall circa 1990. So it would have gone well. You never know. I might. All right. Yeah, and actually, we're going to be wrapping up pretty soon, because I don't want to be stopping over Mecca if I'm going over there and bugging her for a while. But yeah, we're sitting now at 1271. Let me see what we got here. While I have my YouTube studio on, it's also good to make sure that nobody's putting any copyright claims on me here. So there's just one where that's turned off, because that wasn't for anyone anyway. And that one was like, it was for someone else. So I was like, no, I'm not getting it. And this one, that's a claim from the BBC. Apparently, they used a little too much in there, and too much, Doctor Who music, I think, and this one, or footage. I think it may have been. That was a Spyfall. They used the spider thing, but that one I used some of the little too much of the music, so they didn't. So any money made off of that, and the other one that goes to Disney now. So enjoy your nickels, guys. Yeah.
And now tell me, what are you gonna do if Kim Cattrall does indeed have copies of those pictures?
Possibly take it as evidence of a kind of benevolent God. I don't know. All right, this one's here's a cute one. All right, this one's I like.
Good grief! If you want to see her naked, just watch Sex in the City.
Well, yeah, I'll go to the original one, Porky's. So So let me get this one done up here, and also save the screen properly this time. I want to get the stupid ad out of the way. Again, I can say stupid. Oh, Marshall's making headphones. That's nice. Okay, so I'm going to put that back here. Excuse me. Now let's get this screen shared properly here. Okay. That. Unfortunately, I can't mute the mic, so I have to be quiet here. So here we go. It's a quickie. Yeah, one of the nuggets I found. I think actually that may have come from because somebody else has got pretty much every sound effect that is on there. That is what was made it's on 4 different major files on YouTube. I'm blanking on the name of the guy, but I got those copied out, and one of them is. Bill, I don't know if it's some channel. He's got 4 gigantic files of every sound effect. It's like, forget the album they came out with several years ago, Star Trek sound effects. This is every sound effect file, and just do with it what you want, pretty much. And one of the things on there is just Shatner's voice doing the opening narration, no music, and there's like 4 different cuts of it with different degrees of reverb. There's also a thing of Nimoy doing a quick load. This is not Nimoy. Stay tuned for next week's episode of Star Trek. So, thankfully, that one is still up, and I managed to recopy them all. But I was talking about earlier, somebody had all in the big 6 disc set of the original series music.
Oh dear God.
Oh dear. Yeah, I don't know. One, good luck trying to get a hold of him because Avery is a very weird bird. Okay.
Yeah, he is.
And actually, in the interviews, I'm very impressed because he definitely gets Star Trek. He understands. He knew exactly what it was about, and that's like yes. And the non-visitor, same thing. She could. Her comment mainly about because she's a stage dancer. She's a self-described gypsy. But when asked about whether or not we can expect Kira to be doing any dancing, it's like forget it because Kira's probably got 2 left feet. So I was like, yeah, I like this. They're thinking about the character. Avery Brooks. I mean, he'll do conventions and ask him what he wants. He'll tell you flat out. The man has no filter. Okay. But yeah, they may think they're going to get Cisco, but no, you ain't getting. If it is, it won't be Avery Brooks playing him.
You might get lucky to get Jake Cisco.
Yeah, And again, they'll be counting their blessings if they actually get us. If they do a second season of Picard, it'll be at a pure spite. It ain't doing the numbers they need. And again, too many sources are coming out saying that no, Discovery is done. They have finished. They're broken down the sets. They're not calling everybody back to saying we're on for another season. And all the reshoots were to rework not a season finale but a series finale. They are done at 3.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
And
my
they're broken down.
other favorite TV series is
Well, yeah, I think it's part of the process of trying to de-Kurtzmanize CBS. It's part of why Hawaii Five-0 came to an end after 10 seasons. Although in the modern market, such as I said, I don't think you wouldn't have gone much further anyway. Because now that home video is a thing, they're no longer selling for the syndication market is no longer the thing. Now it's home video. And in that situation, more than 10 years is asking a bit much for the public. By the same reason that more than that is really a bit much to ask for individual stations to buy a syndication package. That is Kurtzman blowing sunshine up. Everybody's trying to blow smoke up everybody's ass. Oh, no, we're still going. We're getting bull. It's like, bull. Yeah, Kat Walski thinks it's back. Yeah, Kat Walski thinks a lot of things. Okay.
After what Kurtzman
I mean,
was,
personally, the man, he's a lovely man. He called me when I was in the hospital. He's a very nice guy personally, but no, he is a shill now. Okay. He's very much a cheerleader for anything and everything Star Trek. He used to be a lot more critical. When Discovery started, he was a little more salty, and he was a little more critical of it. But now he's kind of sucking down the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I'm not getting up.
I'm getting up. I just want to get it out of my way.
But yeah, no, too many people, and between again, the numbers aren't what they said it was.
CBS bought a stake in Secret Hideout.
Well, then that gives them a certain amount of control. It means that Kurtzman can't ignore them. And again, like Midnight just pointed this out. Most of the stuff that's done is that's not because they have some kind of vote of confidence in Alex Kurtzman. It's like they're trying to control him. They're trying to keep him on as short a leash as possible. That's why, the various people like the head of brand, marketing, whatever, Von Sitters and Veronica Hart and all them, they were headquartered in Secret Hideout. It's not a vote of confidence in Kurtzman, just the opposite. It's like they're going to keep an eye on him. And I'm guessing what they want, it's like they don't know enough, because he's any measure. It's like, the fact that the fan base is this divided at the worst possible time. It's again, let's be realistic. The fan base these days is not as big as we like to think it is. We got some of those devoted fans in genre fandom, but it's let's just say Star Wars fandom is not quite as deep, but it was much broader at one point. The Star Trek fandom, we were the reason why Star Trek is considered a crown jewel among franchises, because you had this hardcore dedicated knuckleheads who show up for anything and would hold fast and buy the merchandise and everything else. But that's a big thing, because if you break it all down on the especially adjusting for inflation, they're not making much. They're not making the kind of money they want. They're doing the same kind of money every other movie's made, at best. JJ Trek, the first one, again, if you adjust for inflation, just barely edged out the motion picture. And that, and again, adjust for inflation. You have to adjust for inflation. Sorry, Campia, you have to adjust for inflation. You can't just say, it's a different market. Not that different, okay? It's still a matter of butts and seats. Well, I don't know. He gets a load of the script saying, I ain't playing this crap. But again, they ended Picard in such a way that they could easily just say, nope, that's it. It was just a 10 issue. It's just a 10 episode miniseries. We'll just wrap it at that. And let's see. So you got the third season of Discovery coming out. All indications are that that's it. Third, done. Wrap it up. Go away. Everyone else find new jobs because you ain't coming back here. Picard, again, it didn't bring in the Bafo numbers they needed, and they needed major numbers to justify the expense. Let's see, Lower Decks, that was paid for. And again, it's animation. It's one of those rare cases where animation is cheaper than anything else. And actually, if the people who are doing Lower Decks seem to have a better grasp of what they're doing too, so that one might actually work out as far as that goes. But as far as the live action goes, Kurtzman's running into the dirt and started the tunnel. So now it's a matter of, okay, he can propose all he wants. He can put as much things in development as he wants to. He can develop Section 31 until the cows come home and, go out again. Sherry Redstone apparently does not like the man. He wants him gone. He has ruined the family the family heirloom that was Star Trek. Oh yeah, Clarice is like, no, please. I've heard that script is horrible.
Yeah. Didn't Doomcock say that Kurtzman had a little shit attack because of?
Apparently, Kurtzman he marched into Sherry Redstone's office and demanded that he gets the Section 31 show, and she laughed her ass off.
Yeah,
like, get out of my office.
Said something about him throwing something
Well,
at.
The rumor is that someone mentioned Doomcock's name or whatever, and he just threw a conniption fit and punched a hole through a TV and whatever. Now, possibly that was a planted rumor by the usual suspects on the other side, so that you could get the usual suspects in the shill side say, see, it's fake. It's all fake. No, that story was fake. The other stuff is still very much true. They ain't coming back for a fourth season. Nobody's got the money. Netflix is going to get out of this. They've won a court case. They are not bound to bankroll Alex Kurtzman's spending spree. There's a lawsuit over that because they've tried to say, we ain't paying for this. And Kurtzman said, you have to. Here's the contract. You have to pay for this. Well, they took CBS to court, and the court said, no, you don't. You ain't gotta. If they're gonna go nuts, you don't have to bankroll it. So Netflix is getting out of it, and Amazon is not happy because they didn't bring in the numbers that they thought they were going to get. So yeah, as far as Vic, as what I would like to see, I mean, as far as the entertainment industry goes, Vic is still very much low on the totem pole. He is a voice actor, an occasional on-screen actor. I mean, in voice acting thing, yeah, he's a big deal. As an on-screen actor, not so much. He show up occasionally here and there on something that's, party or number 5 and a beach blanket bingo type thing,
Like that World of Warcraft ad.
That sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah. He's done, he had a World of Warcraft ad, but that was also targeted at fans who knew what the hell he was. I don't think Hulu doesn't need it. Hulu's got the Orville. And the Orville can prove how successful it is because it was on TV and they've got ratings to back it up. They don't have to worry about vague little things. The record numbers on the let's see the record. What was the record? You got 2 more subscribers than last time? Yeah. Well, Lucas is kind of the thing. It's like he wants to, because let's see. His previous 2 movies before Star Wars, American Graffiti and THX 1138. He did the same thing. The studio mucked about with him. Once he got the thing back, he put them back the way he wanted them. And that's the only version available. You can't get the theatrical cut of American Graffiti. The reason why anybody gives a crap about Star Wars is because it was available for a while there. There were DVDs out of the theatrical versions of all 3 movies. I had them for a while, and stupidly I gave them away to a hospital because I wasn't quite paying attention to what the hell I was giving. We're going to Blu-rays. We got the Blu-ray set for Star Wars, and I didn't need 3 different versions. Then I gave them that and my old Star Trek sets to the hospital. There was
something.
It was the wound care thing where they had a bariatric chambers back there, hyperbaric chambers where they go in there and they sit in these the pressurization thing, and they had nothing to do. They would watch movies and DVDs. So here's a bunch of them. Yeah. But it's just kind of where you start getting the thing of how bad it's got to get before CBS decides to sell it off before because we clearly don't know what we're doing, and no one's going to hire anybody who does what they're doing. So it's like, here, NBC, you want it back? And that is where it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of here comes Seth MacFarlane. It's like, please, this is what Orville was supposed to be in the first place. And even a further stretch of the scenario is that the very special episode where John Delancey guest stars on Orville. At the end of it, or somewhere in the way, snaps his fingers and everything changes, and suddenly everyone's in Star Trek uniforms. We're no longer talking the Union Fleet. We're talking Starfleet Command. We're talking the United Federation of Planets instead of the Planetary Union. The only major change beyond the uniforms would be the exterior of the ship. The interior is fine. The interior would fit perfectly in any next gen era Star Trek show. You just need to change the outside of the ship to probably look a little more like the like Voyager, a little more of an Intrepid class type thing. Although I think it's somewhat larger. Probably kind of intermediate between the Enterprise D and then the Intrepid. So I would just change the loops to nacelles somehow, and there we go. Yeah, no, they might. It depends on how invested they are in keeping that universe as it is.
Oh boy, somebody just unsubbed from Mecca and Midnight's Edge.
Oh, don't do that.
He just finds her to be so negative.
You didn't see Mecca's latest review for Red Dwarf. She's gushing all over that. She'll do positive reviews and get something positive to review, but in fact, again, I'm going to be going over there pretty soon. When her live chat is, let's see, it was told a half an hour ago, and that was, well, she's live now, so I think I'm going to wrap this up and go over there. But yeah, no, don't know. Mecca is not a negative. Just give crap to them. No. It's what she does is counterattack with the fans that attack her, which is not the same thing. Again, don't believe the hype, okay? A lot of it's crap. No, she's so negative. You don't watch the show, do you? Or you're the one attacking her.
Or
no, she
kind of like when Alec Peters went after her and
yeah, that thing. Why I personally am not a big Axanar fan. Sorry, Axanar Comics, but we got a little personal thing with Alec Peters because he went after my wife and went after Mecca in very disgusting ways, and kind of accusing her of being, you're just gushing. You want to be that's a one. She has no interest in Vic Mignogna or whatever. She's bi. Okay. And the way he addressed her is like, you do not talk to me like that. You are not my boyfriend and my husband. You shut the hell up and back up, because he started using her and kind of touched on some more out nerves for her. So it's like, yeah, no, she's not actively attacking the fan base or anything. What she is, but she will, if she's attacked, she will counter. She will fight back, in no uncertain terms. But yeah,
somebody wants you to share the link to Mecca's chat.
I will do that shortly here. Let's see. Hold it. Wrong one.
I still haven't figured out how to.
All right, she's in a Life of Brian watch along. You want to, here's where you're going to get some positivity there, because we're going to do Monty Python. She's a big Monty Python fan. So here we go with that. That is her live chat. She'll be going live momentarily. And again, it's a Monty. I'm fired up myself. Actually, get all ready for that. But yeah, I think we're pretty much wrapped up. And Midnight's Edge. Well, that's because Alec Peters has got a thing with Vic and a personal grudge. That's why he went after Mecca. He went after Steph, because he's got some personal beef against Vic. I think because Vic has actually put out a series, and Alec has yet to even put out anything more than Prelude to Axanar, and he didn't even do that, really. There's people around him that did that. He had very little to do with the production of that trailer. Okay. If it comes out, yeah, sure, I'll check it out. God knows when it's actually going to happen. He's selling patches and stickers. He hasn't done a goddamn thing as far as actual production goes. Not that I've seen. You know? So yeah, he actually put something out. Sure, I'll watch it and I'll review it and I'll put a video out, about it. But until actually something, it's all show and no go. Or all talk. The guy, he's all hat and no cattle.
And Rick thinks that that what Alex said to me after your accident was probably just to make himself look good.
Maybe, because he was nice enough when anyway accident, he got wind of that and said nice things. But beyond that, I'm not going to describe anything beyond that because that But all right, Mecca's Not Live. So I'm going to go and wrap this up now. Thanks, guys, for hanging out and indulging my little rerun fest here. And I'm going to be over at Mecca's chat soon. So again, and Midnight's Edge, for us, they're being proven right more often than not as far as the reporting goes. They're getting a lot of stuff here. Yeah, there's recycling products in there. Yeah, again, personally, Ket Wolski's a great guy, but his content is such that I really can't watch much of him because he's so much of a shill. But yeah, we'll see how that happens when this thing finally crashes and burns, and I can go back and say, "Fuck you, I was right. Fuck you, I was right." Do a little Chandler Razor Fist there. Mecca's chat is now actually. I'm going to go over there now. So. Again, the link is up there in the stream there. And it's going to be doing a watch-along thing with Monty Python, the Holy Grail, I think. So, again, thanks, guys, and we'll catch you over there. So.